Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode. This week we're going to get into working on the bedrooms and to move away a little bit from the bathroom from last couple weeks. So we'll go up, actually turn shadows off as well and get the roof off. And so we have these two bedrooms, and this one obviously has a little bit more space than this one. So I guess this will sort of be our master bedroom. So we can put a slightly bigger bed in there if we turn blueprints on. We don't really have any particular layouts from the blueprint, so we can kind of figure that stuff out on our own. Turn the blueprints back off because they're a bit useless. So what we'll do is figure out some very basic templates and just get some measurements for the beds themselves. In this one, we're going to put in a double bed, and the dimensions for those will be 54 by 74. So about that. We can find a place to put this. I guess up against this wall will be best. In here, I think we'll put a desk next to the bed, and then the other bedroom we can put, I guess, 2 night tables. And so I think that works. That'll give us a couple of feet between the closet and the bed itself. Now, there will be a sort of a frame that goes around this, and we'll get into that in a minute. But for the most part, it's a couple of feet, and I think that's enough clearance. So we can leave that for now. Move into the master bedroom area, and we'll put a queen size bed, I think. So we'll pop that in. That'll be 80 by 60. And so that'll give us a decent amount of space either side here to put a sort of a small nightstand, sort of roughly in the middle. That'll give us about 4 feet. And I guess if we were to just use one door, in theory, then the nightstand shouldn't get in the way. So we'll put that there like that. And we do have sort of an idea in mind for the bed frame and the bed itself. And it will be sort of something like this, sort of a wider frame that goes around underneath, and then we'll just have a very sort of basic design to kind of mimic the rest of the theme throughout the house. And so we can get to work building that. And for this, we can use the same bed frame in both rooms, but of course, because these mattresses are different sizes, we will need to make it a component so that we can adjust the scale of everything a little bit later. And so maybe it'll be a bit easier if we scale up rather than scale down, just so we don't have pieces going inside of each other. So I'll move this a bit closer to the center of the room. And I guess sort of just eyeball from that picture, collapse that a little bit. And we can start from the beginning here. We'll say bed frame small. We can get into this, then pull it up, I would say probably 7 inches. And then we can sort of offset this a little bit past, maybe 5 inches past. Pull this up 1.5 inches. And just sort of get a look at what we're doing here, see how this works. And I guess for the front as well, or for I guess the headboard, this isn't going to have to come out as far. But we do want this inside rectangle to be the same shape because this will ultimately be our mattress dimensions in the end. So we can pull this square out, say 3 inches, maybe even 4 inches. That'll be our headboard. And then we do want the headboard to come out to the edges here, so we'll just draw a guide in there, then pull this out to there, and then do the same on the other side. And just clean up the model a little bit, draw some lines across there, make sure everything else still looks okay. And then what we can do is just pull this headboard up, sort of an arbitrary amount for now. Just keep an eye on what it is, say 3 feet. And then once we get the mattress on there, we can sort of adjust it later to see what looks good. So now this is ultimately our frame. We can adjust it a little bit, pull it up next to the baseboard there. Don't want to put it right on it, but close. And then again, just see how much space we have. And it's about 2 feet. It's not a lot, but I think it's okay for now. We can then push this over to the corner. Not right up against the wall, but fairly close to it. And so now we can draw in our mattress, and we'll want to make sure that we're outside of the frame component itself because this will be a separate piece. And then we can just grab this, pull it up, say 12 inches, maybe 12.5 inches. This won't be on a box spring. This will just be the mattress itself. You can see how far it sticks up, and it's about 1.5 inches deep on the inside there. And what we'll probably want to do, just because the mattress and the frame itself currently is the same thickness, doesn't look particularly right because I guess technically the board meets the exact same point where the mattress sort of begins in the corner here. So this doesn't really look correct. So we can go ahead into the frame again, and we'll pull this out 1 inch just to give a bit of a space to the inside. So there we go. And we can actually probably even pull the mattress down another inch or so, because it's kind of arbitrary how deep this would actually be setting inside of this. Maybe even another inch. So that'll give us 9 inches of space there. And so now we don't really need to detail the mattress. We could, but we will be putting sheets on this, so we can just triple click this, grab the mattress, call it mattress double, hit save there. And so now we can basically put sheets on top of this directly. And I guess because we will be putting sheets on it, we can pull it up another inch to compensate. And so to make this look a bit more natural, we'll be doing the same sort of thing we did back in episode 14, where we made the downstairs love seat, which of course is this here. And the way that we sort of smoothed out the edges and made these pillows. And in fact, I think we'll be using these pillows again upstairs, because they kind of look like bed pillows as well. So they'll get another use upstairs. And so now we can get started on the bed sheets, and for that we will be using the Artisan Toolset plugin, which unfortunately is not free. There are a couple of other tools that you might be able to find on the warehouse that sort of do similar things for free, but if you do want to check this one out, you should be able to get I think it's a 14-day free trial, just to sort of get a grasp on how it works. And I think the full price as well is only $40, which compared to some of the other plugins is actually not too bad. And it is a very useful plugin. So what we'll do is start working on the bed sheets, and we won't actually put another layer on top of the mattress. We'll just edit the mattress itself. And so that the way that we can do that is we'll want to sort of drape the sheets around here. And we kind of want to make those look a bit more natural. So what we can do is I think we'll actually just hit Control there and pull this down to the edge, so that we have a sort of definitive line here, so that we can pull lines out and it doesn't sort of go through the frame. And then we'll want to just pull a line out here, not too far, and sort of draw it up. Make a sort of very basic shape of how you expect maybe fabric to sort of fold around the edges if it were a bit more basic. So pull this out here, and up to the edge, pull these down. And we'll even go in and erase these inside lines, because when we do start rounding these edges, we want it to curl on these outside hard edges rather than sort of underneath and making sort of weird folds in the mesh. And so an easy way to do that is we can go ahead and say hide on the frame, and that'll give us a good indication of what the rest of this looks like. And we'll actually go back in here and draw in these shapes. So I think what we'll do here is actually push this in maybe a half of an inch, just to create a bit of a definition for the bed sheets. And so what we can do here is drag this line up, bring this down to 0.5, and drag that across as well. And because we don't want the bed sheets to go all the way sort of to the top of the mattress, to the headboard, so we can actually draw this line in and sort of peel it back a little bit, and then we can draw in another piece a little later, and that will sort of represent the fold over, I guess, of the duvet cover. And we'll actually hide the second floor, maybe the first floor as well, just so we can get a better look at what we're working on. And it also helps when we turn on hidden geometry, hit K. You can sort of see a bit more inside of the model itself. And of course, when you have the first floor and the second floor on, and we do that, it can get a bit hectic with the amount of lines that we have. And it also doesn't really help that if you start erasing things that are outside of components, it is possible to start erasing geometry elsewhere in the house that you then won't realize until later. And then there's kind of no saving it. You need to go back and redraw a lot of stuff. So it does help in this instance to just clean up what's on the screen so that you can sort of boil down into the finer details. And so now we can go into this and pull this back, and we'll say, kind of, I guess maybe bring it to about here will be about reasonable, I guess. And then we can leave that where it is, and then sort of deal with the edges of it after. And I guess with the way this is being put together, it might be a bit more logical to have these be separated, because I guess the plan now is to make the duvet sort of rounded, and then we can put in sort of the overlap part. If we do the overlap part within the same mesh, the edges that we want, sort of where the fabric would fold over where you see on a normal bed, if we just pull that picture in again, it's not a great representation, but sort of here where you would expect the duvet to fold back on itself, that hard edge will be lost if we start smoothing everything. So we'll kind of want to make that a different piece. And if we are going to make it a different piece, it would help if they were sort of separated components. So I think what we will do in this case is back out of this. Then we can duplicate the mattress. We'll hit explode on that, so then it's then separated. Then go back into this piece, and I guess sort of just erase the duvet. So we'll kind of need to backtrack a little bit here, changing the plan a little bit. So what we can do, yeah, we'll just erase the sections that sort of connect the mattress to the duvet, and then we should just be able to triple click all that, erase it, and then draw this stuff back in. We can pull the line to here. If we hold shift, then that will help us figure out where that point is. And then we can just draw these two lines back in. That should complete the mattress. And then what we can do outside here with the piece that we sort of duplicated is just erase the mattress itself. And now what we'll do is fill this in so that we sort of have an inside to the mattress. Then we can offset from this inside line. We'll bring this in, say, an inch. Then we can pull this line to the front. We'll want to make sure that we're on that axis. There we go. And we can erase this inside line and erase this one as well. Now the measurement that we do have is 1.5 inches. So we can drag this down 1.5 and then just drag this inside piece up to there, erase our guides. And that will help separate our duvet and our mattress, and sort of increasing the width of it here will also help the two models sort of blend together a little bit more seamlessly. And you'll see that in a little bit. Now we can get back into detailing our duvet cover itself. All right, and I think that will do it sort of for the basic shape of what we're looking for here. And so now we can go ahead and triple click this. We'll say mattress cover, and then go into it, triple click it again. And we'll want to save here just in case we do make any mistakes or would like to just revert to this point. Then we'll be able to do that. And so now we can go into our cover. We'll just triple click this and go up to Subdivide selection in the Artisan toolset. And that'll just add a few more triangles. And if you don't see these triangles, you can go up to View and Hidden Geometry, and that will toggle those. And then we'll just click that again, add a few more triangles to this subdivision, and we'll just see what this looks like. We'll hit Smooth Selection and just see what that's starting to look like. It looks a little, looks like the model is sort of snagging on different points. And so what we can do there is we'll want to just triple click everything again, make sure all of it's selected, and then just try that again. And it's definitely snagging on some areas. Try it again with everything selected. And it's starting to look a little bit less like a duvet cover and more like a mess of polygons. So we'll just back out of that. And so I think some of the faces that we've sort of added to the edges of the mattress are causing some issues with the way it subdivides. So we will actually just go back in and correct some of these, get rid of some of the unnecessary lines. And in fact, I think what we'll do is pull this all the way through, sort of making it solid. And it won't necessarily matter too much with the end result because we will still get a bit of rounding going on with the edges here once we start subdividing it. And I think we'll actually try to help smooth some of these faces is if we just tap Control, bring this up, and then we'll go around and clean this up. And then we'll want to pull these edges in maybe 1/2 inch or a full inch. Yeah, maybe 1/2 inch. Just to help sort of the curving process have a few more faces to latch onto. And we could do it up here as well, but we don't necessarily have to because this will be covered over once we finish. So that right now we'll just be sort of adding unnecessary geometry. So we can click out of that again, save there. Give ourselves another reset point if everything crashes or if we cause some sort of unreversible complication. Go back in, triple click, we'll subdivide again, and then we can start smoothing and see what we end up with. And we do have some definitely weird issues going on there. So maybe we'll do a third subdivide. And it does seem like it's starting to pull from some weird points. If we just hit smooth here, you can see that the entire corner sort of gets mushed over to the side. and it ultimately ends up deselecting some lines. So we'll have to figure out sort of what the cause of all of this is. And this does happen sometimes with modeling. We can probably get rid of this sort of lump here and see if that sort of sorts anything out. And maybe just make sure we don't have any hidden geometry on the sides of there. And it's still definitely getting sort of unevenly pulled. As you can see, the line sort of curves up there, which is fine, but then we end up having this sort of divot taking out of the side of there, which is happening on this side as well. And I guess it just sort of is how it's pulling everything together. And I still don't think this is really working the way we want it to, so we will actually just sort of perform a test to see if we can get sort of a basic rectangle, sort of about the same shape, to do what we want it to. And of course, previously when we did work on the love seat downstairs, we rounded the corners and then sort of pulled those in, and that worked pretty well. But I don't think that's going to work here, because we do sort of need to do the fringe on the underside, which is a little less than rounded, sort of the way that it flows off. So we'll just hit these a couple of times and then see sort of where it pulls from. And it's definitely sort of doing a base, you know, how you would expect it to sort of pull in evenly on all the corners. Even if we say subdivide again and say smooth, and it sort of starts pulling it in sort of more naturally than we were getting on the mattress. Yeah, so I think what we'll do, we'll head back to this design, and we'll actually just erase these pieces across the front and fill it in with one basic across there. And now what we've had to do to get this to sort of cooperate with the way Artisan and SketchUp works is really actually boil the mattress and the duvet model down to almost nothing, apart from the sort of the folds that we have on the ends here, and then just subdivide it multiple times, and then just start manually smoothing it so that it doesn't pull in weird directions, and making it look a little bit more organic, which is definitely a bit more of a pain than previously with the chair, but just with the way SketchUp sort of starts pulling the model is not really conducive to sort of natural fabric flow. So I have to sort of just smooth this out a little bit, make it look a little bit better. And then we can go back in as well and just actually kind of make it look a little bit more organic with the way some of the folds and some of the wrinkles in the fabric may look on a duvet cover. And we'll just turn off hidden geometry, turn on the skylight, turn on shadows so that we can sort of see how it's all working, and we can start adjusting some of this just to see the way that the light reflects off of it. And of course, sort of the front here doesn't necessarily matter because we'll be changing that a little bit. But we want to sort of get rid of these hard shadows on the edges. And we can tab through some of this. Maybe we'll want to pinch certain areas, make sort of different little folds and creases in it to make it look a little bit more like fabric. We'll just sort of randomly start inflating some of the top here, give it a little bit more of a flare. And we can go back in after and smooth a lot of this stuff out, get rid of those sort of hard peaks that we're getting. And we'll actually take the inflate tool and sort of press the down arrow, and we'll scale it in a little bit. So we'll want to push this in, not that far, maybe a little bit less. So we'll minus it down to there. Just create some sort of negative divots, maybe round off this edge a little bit more than it is. And it's a rather long process, but it's definitely one that you kind of want to get right, because the look of fabric is sort of a telltale sign in rendering. If it's not detailed enough, or maybe a little over stylized, that sort of thing, maybe too smooth. So it's definitely something you want to take your time with. And this sort of part depends really all on your computer. If you start adding more and more triangles, you have the ability to make it look more and more realistic, of course, but the more triangles there are, more polygons rather, it really starts to bog down the machine, and can get pretty cumbersome, especially when you have plans that have, you know, multiple beds and multiple pieces of fabric throughout the model. So it can become a little bit of a nuisance. And honestly, it would actually probably be a lot easier in another program like Maya or Blender to do this sort of thing, where you can sort of simulate the way fabric looks a bit easier. But of course, it requires a bit of knowledge with how those programs work. So I guess depending on your skill level, you can either do it this way or go through Blender or something like that. And so now what we will do with the mattress is go in here and round our corners like we did with the sort of the base seat downstairs on the love seat. Now we can say offset, we'll want to do 1 inch, and 5 subdivisions is fine. And then we can subdivide it. And once it's fine, then we can start smoothing it, and then they'll start pulling those edges out. And that'll give us a bit more of a natural mattress look, which of course, you know, this effectively is supposed to have sheets on it, so that's fine. We can go in with our brush tool again here and then just start smoothing things, maybe even inflating it. Inflate it a tiny bit and make this a bit bigger. And it's really only sort of towards the front, or I guess the top of the bed, where you're going to notice anything that we change, because this bit will be a little bit more exposed than the rest of it. And so we'll just do some minor adjustments here, and then swap over to the smoothing brush again, and then just make sure that all this isn't too sharp. Oh, turn that off, and then we can pull this up and keep it on the axis so that we can keep it separated. And because this is all white and sort of difficult to see, we'll actually bring in our panel again and go down to materials and even make this maybe something a little bit less aggressive, maybe a gray. Pull this into there. See how it all lines up? Probably pull it up a bit higher so that it's not intersecting. And what we can even do is maybe scale it a bit so that it fits a bit better. Something like that. And now we'll want to do sort of the fold over bit, and we can again just go in with sort of a rectangle tool here and draw sort of a base because we don't want it to be influenced by any sort of offset angles of these sheets. We can pull this up, this bottom piece up to lower than the sheet itself, because this will get pulled up, and if it is a little bit too low after the fact, we can actually scale it. And now we can pull this section over, and we'll turn off shadows again just to help improve the performance a little bit. Pull that over to about, not that far, but about there. And then this piece to about there. So there we go. And then we don't want it to be that thick, of course. We'll probably have it be about that thick, and maybe line up a bit better with about here. And so we can play around with this a little bit, see what it looks like. Now we can start subdividing this as well. We'll go in and make sure that we have our hidden geometry on, subdivide it a few times, and then start smoothing it out. Just keep pulling it in, and seeing where it rests. And it is a bit sharp, but it's actually not too bad. So we can go back and select this, start pulling some of these in just to sort of correct the look of it. And actually we'll go in and hide this. So we want to scale this up a little bit to match the base of the duvet a little bit better. Actually turn off hidden geometry to sort of get that out of the way, and pull that up to about here. Maybe even a little bit lower. Maybe if we even just go into this ourselves, start pulling some of these inside pieces in to give it more of a artificial look. We can probably hide this and just show our hidden geometry again. That's not going to work because we do have that in the way. So we'll actually move this up here, say 8 feet, and move that up there as well 8 feet so that we know they line up properly. And then we can probably even just start pushing some of this in, maybe subdivide it again to give us a bit more accuracy. Now we'll want to push it inward a little bit and make this a bit smaller. And then just start sort of doing this on this edge. Just so that when we put the duvet back in place, it sort of gives the impression of it turning back in on itself. We can bring these back down 8 feet and sort of see how it all meshes up. And it works a little bit. You can kind of see in some areas that it's folding back in. Just smooth off these edges. Bring this in a little bit further. And then we'll want to actually push this edge in as well, and probably change the color of the mattress just to make it a little bit easier for us to distinguish them. We can probably bring the mattress up a little bit until it starts intersecting. And it has there. I think it actually got shifted over a little bit. So yeah, we'll go back in here. Move this up until it starts coming through in some areas. And it has there. And in fact, probably what we can do is sort of leave where that is. Go back into the mattress. And then actually just start pushing these down so that they don't intersect. Anywhere it starts poking through, we'll just sort of find the place where it starts coming through. And it doesn't necessarily matter, again, what this looks like on the inside or the physical mesh of the geometry. We just want it to look like a bed. It doesn't need to be super accurate. You don't need to have all the little odds and ends in place. And now we can go into the fold piece that we have and just start sort of pushing it in. And we can go into the inside of the mattress here and just start manipulating the inside piece. And we just want it to look like, at least from the outside, that the fold is starting to go back in on itself. And there we go. We'll just have a look at this again from the outside. A few small adjustments, and actually tab back over to the smooth tool. Make sure it's facing out just a little bit. And then we can sort of run along this edge. And so now we'll probably scale this up a little tiny bit. Maybe down a little bit more. There we go. Leave that like that. I think this is actually not that bad. We'll actually probably grab both of these and scale them up a tiny bit. Leave a little bit less space for the pillows to go. Make sure nothing is poking through. And we can go and recolor the mattress white. Make this sort of a darker gray. Make this a light gray. Sort of differentiate for now at least. And we do have some polygons sort of poking through at long range, so we'll go in and sort of sort those out. Grab this and just push those edges in. There we go. That'll sort of do it for that. And so now we can go back into our layers, turn on the second floor again, turn off hidden geometry, and we'll just want to make sure that everything is sort of sitting where it should. Lower the mattress down a little bit. Just make sure that it's sitting sort of on the bottom. Bring it up to about here-ish, 3/16. And just see what that sort of looks like. Turn on the shadows even. And of course this is without the roof, but just give us sort of a good idea what everything looks like. And so I think that's actually not too bad looking. Turn shadows off, just make sure that this isn't intersecting at the headboard. Now, very close to it, which is good. And so now we can pop back down into our first floor, and I guess we can put all this stuff on the second layer now. And head into the living space and grab these pillows from down there. And then just paste our pillows in here. Just grab a Q and rotate, and then even just the move tool and start slotting them in. We can sort of prop them up against the headboard and scale them down a little bit to fit the beds a bit better. Move them up so they're not intersecting there. There we go. And just lay them up against the headboard like that. Try to get them centered a little bit better. Maybe we'll have them be propped up a little bit more than that. So we'll just drag them out straight. Make sure they don't intersect again. You can have them intersect a little bit just so that you can see where there's some sort of compression against the headboard. And we can probably rotate these as well. And we'll rotate them sort of this way. I think that looks pretty good. We'll actually probably pull this up a little bit more just so it's there's a little bit less space exposed there. And we do have some of the mattress sort of poking through, so we'll actually scale this as well. Bring this up. And then scale this out. Let's say 1.005. Just to make sure it clears a little bit better. And again on this side, 1.005. And so now we can go back in and adjust our headboard. We'll push this down a bit further. We don't want it to be too high off there. Maybe half the pillow again, a little bit around there. Higher then. So we have 3'1" currently, maybe 3'4". So we can drag it up to there. And what we can probably do is go ahead and add another set of pillows in front here, just to add another little layer of detail. And then we can maybe do a -1 shift on just to sort of mirror the design. And maybe we'll have them be a bit smaller as well, scale them down. We can put them here. There we go. We can make these another color as well, maybe a bit darker. And I guess we can sort of start getting into some of the colors. We can make this red, the usual red, and then start modifying it. Make this sort of a wooden color, maybe a little bit of a washed color, almost like some of the wood downstairs. Something sort of like that. And then maybe almost sort of cream bed sheets. Sort of, there we go. And then just mimic that, make the pillows the same color. And then of course we have the outside duvet color, which would be a little bit different, maybe, I guess a black, almost black color, something similar to that. So we'll make it a red and then adjust. Maybe something like that, and then these pillows can be a similar color to there. So we'll just sample it, paint those. And so now sort of as a last little flourish we can do for the bed is actually add a sort of a blanket to the end here, and we can do that easily. We'll just take our rectangle tool and draw something in here on the frame of the bed and pull this in. And obviously we want this to be above the duvet there. Can pull this in, pull that side in as well. And now we'll want this to sort of hug the same sort of general shape as the bed. So we'll just draw sort of a loose shape around it and then bring those corners off. Now we can take the bottom and pull that up a little bit just to give it a little bit of clearance on the bottom. And then we can group this. We'll say mattress blanket. And we can go in here and we'll just say sort of take those corners off. And obviously we don't want it to be 3 feet. So we'll say maybe 0.2. Respect strict or offset, and we'll say yes to that. And then just sort of give us a loose offset there. See what that looks like. Hit enter. And we can just see our hidden geometry. And that sort of just gives us a very basic offset to play with when we do the subdivision here. And then we can pull this in a few times with smoothing. And I think what we'll do here, just to alleviate some of the squareness that we have going on with the edges, is just undo that. And instead of pulling it in, we'll do another subdivision, and this will sort of add a few more triangles in here. And then we can start smoothing it, and then we have a little bit more to pull from. And that'll help round it out a bit better. And then we can just turn off hidden geometry and see what all this looks like. It's a little square still. See what this looks like if we were to do the subdivide and smooth. I think that looks fine with the 1. We'll just hit enter there. And it's still very rigid. But we do have a lot of triangles to play with, so we will go in here and actually tab over to our smooth tool and then just start playing with some of these edges. And then what we can do, just to make this a bit more blanket-like, is actually duplicate this, drag it up, and actually scale it out. We'll offset a little bit, turn on our hidden geometry with K, bring this down to the bottom of the other blanket piece that we have. Press K again, and then just pull this out so that it's sort of overlapping, sort of almost like it's the same blanket but folded back on itself. Say 0.995. And maybe we can take this one in here as well and rotate it just a tiny bit to help offset sort of the fold, make it less perfect. And we can take both and offset those as well. And then take both of them and then bring them down inside. Just make sure that the blanket itself, the first layer, doesn't actually go inside the duvet at any point. And maybe even rotate it a little bit. Maybe say 0.2 of a degree. Just because it is a little bit higher on this side than the other side, it seems like. So pull it up to there. And we can take these, bring our layers back in here, head down to the materials tab. And yeah, we'll make them red. We can adjust that. And maybe we'll make this almost a sort of a black color as well. And maybe we'll change the sheet. So we'll actually grab our bucket tool, sample this, and then head back to our cursor with spacebar and just grab these, so now we can manipulate them, make them a little bit more blue. And so now that we have the sort of the side room done, or spare room, whatever it ends up being, we can actually take all of this, and maybe what we'll do rather is we'll take all of the sort of the mattress pieces and the pillows, and we'll just say bed on that, and we'll make sure that it's all one piece. It is. And so now we can copy this over into the other room. Just bring it over here. And of course we'll want to make sure that it's actually on the floor. So we'll drag it up a bit, then drag it down until it snaps. There we go. And so looking at this now, I know the original intention was to modify this and make it a bit bigger to be a king size. I think we'll actually leave it as a double bed in here as well, because it is going to add a lot more extra frame around the outside here than ideally we want, because we do want to have a dresser on each side here, or a nightstand rather on each side, and that's going to sort of cut into the amount of space that we have left to add those, especially with the closet as close as it is. So I think we'll just leave it as a double bed. So we'll erase that, and I can bring these in a bit closer to the baseboard, and then try to center it up in the room a little bit. And we do want to have different colors in this room as well, so we can modify a lot of this stuff. We'll just go in loosely, and actually I guess we'll have to say make unique on this, and it is. Just go into this and paint it red so we can modify it. And we'll have the colors in here be a little bit lighter than in the other room. And of course, a lot of this stuff isn't going to be final. When we do get into the rendering stage, a lot of it will be trial and error on how certain stuff looks under certain lighting, and different directions we can have the cameras facing and all that sort of thing. And so a lot of the house will actually go in and do a final pass on how a lot of this stuff looks. But for now, we just kind of wanted to get the pretty solid idea of how everything will be, and then we can go in and add a little bit more detail to it later. Make that red, and then we'll bring this out. We want to make this almost a white, I guess, white sheets. And so I think this is actually a pretty good ballpark for in here. The colors are probably not finalized, but I think it's actually a pretty good general idea of sort of what we're after, especially in shape and tone, and we'll sort of mirror those designs in the nightstands next time. And so that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for this part. Next time we'll get into doing the nightstands and other little bedroom features. But for now, getting the fabric and everything done is a massive step forward, and can obviously take a while to get it to look close to right. Sometimes SketchUp doesn't necessarily do what you want, so you might need to take another approach or another stab at it in a slightly different way. But for now, I think these are actually looking pretty good, and so we'll leave it for there, and we'll have another look at them further down the line when we get into the rendering phase and see how they look in the rendering engine. And if you like this video and would like to help me make more videos like this, don't forget I am on Patreon, so you can head on over there and support me that way. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you guys next time.